Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. NASA astronaut Christina Koch, who led the first all-female spacewalk in 2019, landed on Earth on Thursday after a record stay of almost 11 months on the International Space Station. She landed in Kazakhstan after 328 days in space, along with Luka Parmitano of the European Space Agency and Alexander Skvortsov of the Russian Space Agency. Koch's 328 days in space eclipsed Peggy Whitson's record for an American woman on a single space flight at 289 days. The mission is expected to yield new insights into deep space travel, providing researchers valuable data on how weightlessness and space radiation affect the female body on long space flights. Especially her medical data will be valuable to NASA scientists as the agency draws up plans for a long-duration manned mission to Mars. So on this edition of In Depth, we tell you all about Christina Koch's record-setting mission and how will her 328-day stay on the International Space Station help in various future missions. Besides, we'll also talk about Indian women in space. So the American astronaut Christina Koch has left her footprint in history after breaking an iconic space record for womankind. Her 328 days in space eclipsed Peggy Whitson's record for an American woman on a single space flight at 289 days. More details of this mission in this report.
And Brandy, if I might interrupt...
NASA's Christina Koch returned to Earth on 6th Feb after shattering the spaceflight record for female astronauts with a stay of almost 11 months or 328 days aboard the International Space Station.
328 days that she spent in space.
She touched down at 2:42 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Kazakh Steppe, along with Luka Parmitano of European Space Agency and Alexander Skvortsov of Russian Space Agency. Koch also achieved a gender milestone in spacewalk with a fellow NASA astronaut, Jessica Meyer, on October 2019. It marked the first time when two women stepped out of the space station at the same time. Launched into orbit in March 2019, Koch's mission was extended in April from its original span of 6 months to nearly an year after she was already aboard the station. Koch and others will undergo medical testing at NASA's headquarters in Houston. Her medical data will be especially valuable to NASA scientists as the agency draws up plans for long-duration manned mission to Mars.
I spoke of gratitude. I spoke of you.
You see, as far as men and women are concerned, your biological cycle makes a difference. At the same time, your psychological cycle also makes a difference. So these are the differences. As far as your face and other aspects are concerned, particularly the aspects related with your dressing. Recently, only in month of March, we had encountered a situation where two women astronauts were supposed to undertake a spacewalk, but they were only having one spacesuit which a woman can wear. So there are a lot amount of differences because of structure of human beings also.
Koch and Meyer followed October 2019's landmark event with two further spacewalks together on the 15th and 20th January 2020. In the past, several women have achieved historical milestones. Some of them are Valentina Tereshkova, who became the first woman in space. Tereshkova blazed a trail for many female space flyers who would follow. Tereshkova, a Soviet cosmonaut, was selected from over 400 applicants to launch on Vostok 6 mission, June 16, 1963. NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson was the first woman to command the International Space Station when she took the helm of the outpost in April 2008 during Expedition 16. On her next space flight in 2016, she became first woman to command the space station twice. When she took command of Expedition 51, she holds a record for being the oldest woman in space, having returned from her final mission at the age of 57. She has spent 665 days in space. USSR Svetlana Savitskaya was the first women spacewalkers who worked outside Salyut 7 space station for over 3 hours with the male cosmonaut Vladimir Zanibekov on July 25, 1984. NASA astronaut Susan Helms was the first woman member of International Space Station crew who served as a flight engineer during Expedition 2 mission from March to August 2001. Koch has previously said that a space flight would help the US Space Agency better understand the effects of long-term space flight as NASA aims to return astronauts to Moon by the year 2024. US President Donald Trump congratulated Koch on her record-setting mission. With inputs from Vipul, Bureau Report, Raj Sabha TV.
So what exactly is a spacewalk and why is it considered so important? While astronauts conduct experiments outside the space station or spacecraft, they also have to take special precautions and wear special gears for their spacewalks. Let's take an in-depth look at what a spacewalk is, how astronauts prepare for it, and how do the astronauts stay safe outside their spacecraft.
Anytime an astronaut gets out of a vehicle while in space, it is called a spacewalk, also known as an EVA or extravehicular activity. The first person to ever go on a spacewalk was Russian astronaut Alexei Leonov. This first spacewalk was 10 minutes long and was performed on 18th March 1965. At the time, it was considered a big feat in terms of what humans could achieve. Another frontier crossed. Today, however, astronauts going on spacewalks outside the International Space Station is not uncommon. Nowadays, the spacewalks are also much longer, usually lasting between 5 and 8 hours, depending on the job.
As far as staying of astronauts in space, over a period of time, human beings have well understood what are the challenges, because International Space Station is being populated by the human population for quite some time now. But over a period of time, it has been understood that there are both types of challenges. One is a psychological challenge and other is a medical challenge. As far as psychological challenges are there, you are going to stay there in a zero gravity atmosphere. So thinking of a zero gravity atmosphere for some time and staying there for a number of years or number of days is a very challenging issue. Then there are challenges which are related with human psychology. Because you are staying alone or you are in a company of 2 to 3 people, continuously you are staying in the same type of atmosphere. So you are facing a lot of challenges. Then there are medical issues which happen onto your body, because since you are staying in a zero gravity atmosphere, your bone, your muscles, everything starts becoming weak. Then there are issues which are related with your day-to-day activities. To do a day-to-day activity in such a cluttered atmosphere is definitely challenging, and it impacts human psyche also. So there are medical challenges as well as the psychological challenges.
The world record for the most spacewalks is held by Russian astronaut Anatoly Solovyov. He has been on 16 spacewalks and spent more than 82 hours outside in space. That's almost 3.5 days of walking in space. Astronauts go on spacewalks for many reasons. Spacewalks let astronauts work outside their spacecraft while still in space and lets them conduct science experiments in space, allowing scientists to learn how being in space affects different things. Spacewalks also let astronauts test new equipment. They can repair satellites or spacecraft that are in space. When astronauts go on spacewalks, they wear spacesuits to keep themselves safe. These spacesuits are fully equipped with all that an astronaut might need, including oxygen and water. Before going on a spacewalk, astronauts must prepare by putting on their spacesuits several hours before the spacewalk. The suits are then pressurized, meaning they are filled up with oxygen. Once in their suits, astronauts breathe pure oxygen for a few hours, which gets rid of all the nitrogen in their body. If they don't get rid of the nitrogen, the astronauts might get gas bubbles in their body, causing them to feel pain in their shoulders, elbows, wrists, and knees. Astronauts leave the spacecraft through a special door called an airlock, which has 2 doors. When astronauts get ready to go on a spacewalk, they go through the first door and lock it tight behind them. They can then open the second door without any air getting out of the spacecraft. After a spacewalk, astronauts go back inside through the airlock. Astronauts stay safe during spacewalks by wearing a safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue. Safer is worn like a backpack. It uses small jet thrusters to let an astronaut move around in space. If an astronaut were to become untethered and float away, Safer would help him or her fly back to the spacecraft. Astronauts control Safer with a small joystick, like on a video game. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, time for a short break here on the program. But when we return, we'll talk about Indian women in space. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. Women space travelers are a very small group of people. Till date, of the total 565 total space travelers, only 65 have been women. 2 of them have links to India. While Kalpana Chawla was born in India and immigrated to the US in 1980, Sunita Williams has an Indian-born father. Her paternal family is from Julasan in the Mehsana district of Gujarat. Let's know more about these 2 women in our next report.
Kalpana Chawla was the first woman of Indian descent to go into space. She was also one of the 7 members on the ill-fated NASA Space Shuttle Columbia that disintegrated upon atmospheric entry, killing all 7 in 2003. Born in Karnal, India on 1st July 1961, Chawla was the youngest of 4 children. She obtained a degree in aeronautical engineering from Punjab Engineering College before immigrating to the United States and becoming a naturalized citizen in the 1980s. In 1988, she earned a doctorate in aerospace engineering from the University of Colorado and started working with NASA. Her first opportunity to fly in space came in November 1997 aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia on flight STS-87. The shuttle made 252 orbits of the Earth in just over 2 weeks. It carried out a number of experiments. Chawla deployed the Spartan satellite from the shuttle that studied the outer layer of the Sun. In 2000, Chawla was selected for her second voyage into space as a mission specialist on STS-107. The mission was delayed several times. It finally launched in 2003. Over the course of the 16-day flight, the crew completed 80 experiments. On the morning of February 1, 2003, the space shuttle